Now we'll have the author spotlight with Patrick Henson to come and tell us for 10 minutes about his writing, about his goals, etc. So, Patrick.
All right, thanks. It's always fun to do the author spotlight and see everybody else doing it also. This kind of looks like an AA meeting. Maybe Authors Anonymous instead. So.
How many AA meetings you been to?
Well, I'm not saying I've been to any. I'm not going to. Yeah, right. Anyway, just a quick thing about me. I'm a retired family physician. I retired a couple of years ago. I was in La Mesa for 5 years, and I moved to Lubbock in about 1990. And I've been in active practice all the way up until about 2 years ago. So, family medicine, I did pretty much everything. You know, I did hospital, traditional clinic, I did multiple emergency rooms, I did wound care, I did correctional facilities. You know, I was first assist on many surgeries. I delivered babies. So I did, you know, that's the nice thing about family medicine, you can do everything. So I use that in my books along with all that stuff. So the first book I wrote was in La Mesa, and you know, there was no support group, there was no critique group, there was no author group, there was no AA group. You know, there's none of that. And so they didn't have internet back in the 80s either. So, you know, I wrote all that on spiral notebooks. And so it was pretty crappy. So I stuck it all in a workout bag and stuck it in my closet. So it's still there. And I actually went back and looked at it, and I read the first 10 and 15 pages and went, nope, this is really, really bad. So it's still there. The next one I wrote was about historical fiction, World War II, because I'm a big WW2 fan. I've studied it, and I've really paid a lot of attention to World War II. So anyway, so I wrote that one, and it was, you know, it was much better, and that was back in the internet days, so it's still on my computer. I still got it, it's still there, so I may bring that back up again. And I actually read through it again after one of the book festivals, and there was a whole bunch of veterans that were walking around. They all, you know, wanted a World War II. They all wanted historical fiction of World War II. I thought, well, maybe a good book. So I may come back to that one. I wrote a lot of short stories, got some of them published, and you know, it's always encouraging when you get a book, you know, or a short story published. It kind of gives you, you know, encouragement to keep on going. Somebody wants my book, you know, somebody wants my writing, somebody wants my short story. So, you know, that's fun. The next book I decided to write came up through that is I go to Chicago every year for a medical meeting. It's the week after July 4th, so Chicago in July is really nice. Chicago in July and not any other month is nice. Chicago is terrible in December or January. And I also went to Chicago several times in March, so I know Chicago really well. You know, we've been there a lot of times, and so it was a lot of fun. So my first murder mystery, because I got into murder mystery over all these years, is this one, Fabricated Lies. And it's basically about a police officer that goes undercover when his partner is assassinated, and he goes through Chicago, and he gets close to the assassins, and you know, things twist and turn, and all kinds of bad stuff that goes happen with that. After I wrote that one, I said, I need to get into an author group. I need to get into a critique group. I need somebody to review this. So I went to Mahon Library and went to the reference person and said, you know, help me out. Is there anybody in town that does that? And so she directed me to Caprock Alliance and also to Right Critique Group. And so that has been tremendous. I mean, it really helps to get your stuff, you know, critiqued and read through it. You think it's really good. You understand it in your head, but when you write it down and somebody else looks up at it, they go, I don't understand what that means. So, you know, Tom is in that, and he helped quite a bit with Fabricated Lies. And so after that, then, you know, it was basically rewritten through that time period. So, you know, I went out and I hawked it for, you know, several months in different conventions and sent it to agents, and I got as far as, you know, going to one agent, and they read through it a couple of times, and they held it for a while, but eventually they said no. So I got frustrated. And so, okay, I'm going to self-publish. So I didn't know how to do that. So I ended up meeting up with Karen, and so we connected with that, and so we eventually got this one put together. And it, you know, it did okay. You know, I'm first guy on Amazon, so yeah, it did pretty good. It, you know, it got up to as high as like 1,900 out of 1.5 million books. So, you know, hey, that's pretty good. You know, you know, hey, you know, I like that. You know, my goal was to sell 10 books outside my family.
Yeah.
You know, 10 books. That's all I wanted. 10. You know, outside the family. So I ended up selling 1,300 Kindle books and probably 40 or 50 paperbacks through Amazon, and then through the, you know, the book festivals and book signings. I've sold a whole bunch more, you know, at book signings and all that stuff. So that was fun. So in the meantime of doing that, I was writing this one, The Creation of Marla Adams, and it's set in San Antonio because I got a lot of family in San Antonio. You can write what you like, so I love San Antonio, so it's there. So it's basically a family of police officers outside of San Antonio, a small town, small fictitious town. Had to make up a town. I didn't want to use a real town because there's a lot of dead people. So I didn't want to use a real town. So people are dying in the town. Marla Adams is a wallflower. She ends up being a warrior. She's forced into the lead investigation, and so, you know, after I finished writing this one, I just couldn't give her up. She was just, you know, I just fell in love with her. And, you know, I just had to keep her. So you know, I started writing the next one, even though I had just finished this one. I hadn't even had it published yet. I just got to keep writing her. So I'm writing the second one on that one. So this one came out, and it did okay on the beginning, the launch of that. It did okay, but Karen came up with a great idea to do this big push, and we did it through BookBub and a whole bunch of websites all at the same time. And it ended up hitting #1 on Amazon in 4 countries. So it was like, yay, you know, really good. So it sold, you know, it was 30,000 downloaded Kindle ebooks out of that, and 100,000 pages read. So it was like,
Wow.
you know, okay, somebody likes the writing. So the next one comes out in October next month, and so this one is The Creation of Marla Adams, and it's kind of an introduction to Marla. You know, you get to know her, find out what's going on, all this good stuff like that. She ends up being a good police officer. And then the next one is called The Desperation of Marla Adams, and she just gets in a boatload of trouble. So, so that one comes out in October. So we're just having a lot of fun with that one. It's on Amazon right now as a pre-order for the Kindle book right now. So anyway, so I really appreciate the you know, the Caprock Alliance with what they do, you know, on a monthly basis. It's very helpful. We bring in great people. I learned so much stuff with that, so I hope this continues with this. And critique groups, and if anybody's not in a critique group, you know, I think everybody needs to be in one. Even if you're not planning on publishing something, if you have something, just bring it in. It's just mind-opening. You know, you write it, it's in your head, you know exactly the scene, and then when you write it, somebody else goes, huh? And so, you know, it helps when somebody else reads it and gives you a new perspective of what you're doing. So anyway, so I have some books to sell along with everybody else, and they're normally 15 on Amazon, but with you guys, we're going to sell for 10 of these. So easy enough. So all right, thank you.
Thank you.
And so you, as a doctor, you had this urge to write.
Well, actually, because you know, when I was a doctor, well, I'm still a doctor, but I mean, when I was in active practice,
Practice.
I worked every day. There wasn't a day, I don't take days off, so I worked anywhere from 70 to 80 hours a week. 7 days, you know, if I was in town, I was working somewhere. The only time I took off is when I was out of town. And so I eventually started slowing down about the last 2 or 3 years. I cut down to like 60 hours a week.
60.
So I mean, it was part-time work.
Oh, my goodness.
So I always wrote at nighttime, you know, after, after dinner, after all that, I would write from, you know, 8 to 10 o'clock at night.
Yes.
Every night.
Oh, good, good. I have to say that critique groups are so important. Having somebody to read your work, it's just invaluable.